You enjoy. It's a lot of fun learning here, Karen.
Thank you. I like I said, my head's spinning, but it was well worth several hours here.
Yeah. You walk away going, oh my gosh, I know how to compose now.
Well, no. So now I'm like, I really don't know how to compose.
That's where you need to be, Karen. At the beginning, it's like, what the? I remember the first time, I was 16, 17. I went to Myron's class and I sat in there and literally my head hurt. And I didn't even know that was possible. And, yeah, it's just a lot of stuff.
It's a glorious feeling.
Yeah.
Seriously, if you want to go to bed, we can talk about this, tonight, tomorrow, something like that. I don't want to hold you up.
I'm fine. I'm fine. Let me say bye to everybody. Okay, so Martin already left, and Susan, I'm kicking you out.
Bye.
Oh, all right. All right. So.
Technical question. Are you able to see me?
No. Hold on one second. Let me stop sharing my screen. There we are. Okay, cool. I do not see you.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Midway through, my video went out. And I'm checking in my video. And like I said, it's not imperative that you see me.
Yeah. Maybe that's why your microphone came back on. That's interesting.
I don't know. I'm going to have my techie husband look at it so we can figure this out.
I was Facebook stalking you the one night, and the same night you were Facebook stalking me, and he was cooking something. I saw him.
Rolled vegetable paninis.
That's what it was. Oh,
yes, that's the stuff right there.
I was like,
hey,
okay.
You live right in Reading, right?
Yeah.
I first had them, believe it or not. You know how Boscov's has that little restaurant called The Greenery?
No, but okay.
There's a Boscov's right near me in Exeter, okay?
Yes.
And they have a little restaurant attached. It's called The Greenery. And that's where I first had a vegetable panini. So if you want to try it, go there, check it out. They're so good. Anyway, my husband agreed to cook them for my birthday, so he learned how to make them.
That's awesome. When's your birthday?
January 7th, it was.
Oh, shoot. Oh, that's cool. Very, very nice. All right. So let's talk about how this works. There are two costs involved at studying at the academy. Okay. And ultimately there'll be actually three, but we're not there yet. And when we are, we'll just kind of present it to you guys and see what you want to do with it. So right now, with the academy itself, there's the coaching and the instruction part, and then there's the community, aka the meetup, which is what you were in today. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so for the instruction and coaching, that is $1,500. Okay. Mm-hmm. And what that will be is what I'm doing a lot right now is coaching. That's what you saw in the meetup. Okay. Ultimately, probably in 7-8 months from now, the meetups will basically just be self-run. Okay. But my focus right now is what I call my core 80, getting that 80 to 120 people that I get up to speed on composition, so that as new people come in, the groups can be self-sustaining because there's enough people in the academy who know what they're doing. Okay. At this time, since we're still young, I have to be very hands-on, which I love doing. So it's fine with me. But that's one reason why the cost is a little high, because you're getting, individual attention.
Now that $1,500, is that an annual fee?
It can be if you really want to. No. No, it's just a one-time fee at this time. And then monthly, it's $75 a month to continue with the meetups. Normally what I do is the first month is free to see if you want to be part of this. It also kind of gives you a little, 3-4 weeks to kind of get in the groove of things, work out technical issues, all that kind of stuff. And then the second month, you'll be charged for that month. And if the meetups are not for you, then we just cancel the payment thing, and that's it. Okay. But with the academy, I have video lectures that you'll have access to. You'll get access to the grids. I have books that I put together, and a whole bunch of bonus videos and things like that. You'll walk through a process where we compose out a collection. Now, at this specific time, the collection is 5 images, okay? So if you want your collection, let's say, to be the foul and footwork, we could do that. It could be whatever you want it to be. But what we like to do is compose out a collection. And the reason why I like that is because, one, it gives you like a solid body of work of design that you can put into a small show. Also, when I'm teaching you a principle and you go and you apply it to all 5 of your works, you really, really get to know the principle. You don't get lost in the art making process. Okay. So if I'm teaching you a line strategy and you have 5 different stories and you have to focus on line and do that in all of them, you're really going to start to understand the power of those strategies. And like I said, then as you go through that, then I'll be there along the way with you, because everybody's different. So we want to mold the information so it works for you. One thing I like to encourage people to understand is that at the academy, we're not like a school where you're going to go and get an assignment in a sense and then you're graded on it, right? Let's say you're going to learn a language. Do you speak any languages?
Very, very little Spanish.
Ooh, see. So let's say you're going to learn Spanish, right? There's a couple ways of learning it. One way is to go to a class and they give you assignments and you memorize a bunch of stuff and you take a bunch of tests, right? And you'll retain a certain part of it. The other way of doing it is just immersion. Go to a freaking Spanish-speaking country that they don't speak English, and within 2-3 months, all of a sudden, you're going to be speaking that language, right?
Right.
Maybe not super fluently, but you're going to know, where the bathroom is and how to get around and how to order food and have some level of conversation. And that's the way I like to approach the academy. So when you come into an environment like this meetup this morning, you're going to have people who are going to be very advanced and you're going to have people who are just starting. And I think that's really important because it shows the young people where they can go to, and it always keeps the older people constantly in the basics, right? And so I don't like the idea of separating people out to, oh, you're just a beginner, then you're going to be in the beginner's class. And so what that does is it creates a nice family feel to the environment that we're in. And accountability, which is really important. So when you're in the meetup, we meet on Tuesday mornings, unless there's a different time. You can join a different meetup if you want, if the Tuesday isn't good for you. And you'll bring your work to that Tuesday, and then we'll review it. 4 days after the meetup, there's what we call a peer review. And so whatever you're working on, you just go to our website or to our Facebook page or whatever, and you upload your image of what you're working on, and then the group will give you some feedback, okay? You don't have to meet up at a specific time. You just post it when you have it. And it doesn't even have to be exactly 4 days. It could be 3 days or 5 days, or, it just gives you an opportunity between each meetup to get some feedback on what you're working with rather than waiting an entire week.
Right.
And so that's It's really the down low, the 411, if you will, on the academy. So, what are your questions? What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't know if you have been to my website or other areas where I have my work posted, but you might have seen that I have a lot. I've painted a lot. I mean, one of my goals over the past couple of years is just to paint as much as I can, just to basically learn the material, to be honest with you, because I was not classically trained in oil painting. I was classically trained in sculpture and ceramics. And, you know, I did get some of the design that you were talking about, you know, in my education, but like I said, not nearly as in depth as you are going with it. Where I am right now, I feel, is at the level of developing what is it that I'm trying to say. You know, I feel as though I have developed some mark making capabilities to that I'm happy with. I feel like I have a very good handle on the nuts and bolts of color mixing, for instance, and how to achieve the values I want. But like you were talking about, you know, it's a question of why am I putting the value where it is? Why am I directing the eye in this way? What am I trying to say? And I've started to break through that on my own, but you know, you live in a vacuum when you are working in your studio all day. And you know, I feel like I do need some instruction now. And I over the past couple of years, or year or so, I've been looking. I think I told you this at the gallery. I really truly have just been sort of keeping my eye out for, you know, who do I resonate with? And I feel like things that you're saying I resonate with. On the one concern I have is I feel like I could get so caught up in the mathematics of it that I feel like the creativity can go away. Do you ever sense that as being a danger of your system?
Nope.
No?
Nope. See, what's beautiful is creativity is found within constraint. If you have no constraints, you need no creativity. It's only when we actually put constraint on us that we actually become creative. Also, at the academy, we don't teach creativity. We teach composition. And I have a great video on it that I did, and if I can find it, I'll make sure you get it. And you know, in my life, I've won over 100 awards, and in designing things. And when I was younger, I would get artists really angry with me because when I was a teenager, maybe even younger, I always understood that we never created anything. There's this little, I don't know if you're a Bible person or not, but there's this little verse that I remember when I was younger. It said, all things are created under the sun, right? There's nothing new. And so when I approach something, I never try to figure out like, ooh, I want to create something. But what I remember, probably about 10 years old, where I figured out, quote unquote, creativity. It was a formula. And I was in Fleetwood. That's where I was at the time. And I was sitting in our kitchen, and we had this big brown table. And I was like, let me try something. And I tried this little experiment, and I unlocked creativity. And what was beautiful is years later when I started hearing like Steve Jobs talk about creativity, other great minds talk about it. It was the same exact formula that I discovered when I was a kid. And the simplicity of creativity is this: take two things and make them relate. Make people see two different things in a different light. So it's creative when we see your birds with shoes on it, right? That's creative. And because those are two things we wouldn't normally see together that you then put together. And what's nice is that it makes us smile, right? And really that's where it comes down to the creative part of it. So with the mathematics, now I try to stay away from all the math, but there is a part of the process where math is important. But the first part is story. And that's where you get to be as intuitive and as free and as, as you need to be. We say at the academy that there's what we call the the realm of light and the realm of the rainbow. In the realm of light, that's where like perfection is. That's where great ideas are, But that's like in that invisible part that as artists we like to play in and be in. But the realm of the rainbow is where you actually have to now figure out how to take that experience you had over here and make it real. And the way you do that is by understanding constraints. If you're going to paint, if you use every color in the rainbow, you're going to have yucky mud, right? So they tell you limit your palette, put a constraint on the color that you use, because if you really want a mood, you need to, direct how you use your color. Same thing in lines. If you're using line, there's an infinite amount of lines that you can use, but you need to, limit it so you can actually convey the right mood or feeling. And so I always think constraint is a blessing because it allows us to be quote unquote creative or figure out a different way of communicating things.
I can understand that.
Now, what's your fear on it?
Well, my fear is, I was kind of watching Cheryl in a little thumbnail at one point, and I saw she was like holding her head. And like she'd sit back and she'd get forward again and she's holding her head. And I thought that's my fear there, is that just sort of my brain almost like shutting off and putting up barriers, because it gets bogged down with the detail of it all, bogged down with, I'm not afraid of math. I got to be honest. I like math. I was good at it.
Oh, cool.
Getting bogged down with the detail of it. And I don't fear that it would irreparably harm me, but that's just one concern I had as I sat here. I love everything I heard today and experienced and learned today. But on the other hand, I'm also like, if I were to do this for every single painting, I don't know. I guess, do you still paint?
Nope.
No? Why? If you don't mind me asking.
Honestly, I was really, really poor when I was young. So all I could afford was mud and sticks and pencils. So I never went to an art museum. I always looked at books, right? When I went to a museum for the first time or actually saw real paintings up front and personal, it blew me away because they were so like, in my mind, almost gross in terms of their texture. Because everything I saw was photos in a book, so everything looked photorealistic. And that kind of threw me for a loop. Kind of reminded me of my first time being with a woman. I was like, what? Is that how they really look? I was wise enough not to say that out loud, but I was like, oh, okay, that's different from what I'm used to seeing in books. But I did all that, and it just came to a point where I knew my calling ultimately was going to be teaching people how to compose. And so that's where I spent my time, because I knew I could run to all these painting workshops and learn how to paint and all of this stuff. But I just knew inside my soul I wasn't called to be an artist. And for a long time, I just didn't know what it was because I didn't like the word teacher. When I started coming to terms with that, that's probably the easiest word to call myself, things started clicking. And I was telling the ladies last night at the meetup last night that when I was 16 years old, I remember crying to my mom, like crying, because everybody wanted me to be an artist. And I just knew inside myself that that's not who or what I was. I said, everybody wants me to be an artist, and I have this ability, but I would rather be a family therapist. And I was absolutely sincere about it. So there was something about helping people that was far greater for me than being, finding my significance in helping people than finding my significance in making things. And for about 15 years, I was very frustrated because I still had this ability. And I was like, God, what's going on here? Now I finally see where they both come in, where they work together. And so every year I'll do, a project, but I really don't make a living, let's say, doing my artwork. My father told me years ago, he said, you have a choice. You either figure out how to make money so you can paint what you want, or you make money painting what other people want. And I just decided to go with the first, figure out how to make money doing something else. And that way I had an opportunity to make art purely for art's sake. So I'll do art things and I'll donate it. I did a big mural in the city a couple of years ago down in Reading. You've probably seen it, the big, the dad on the hammock with the two kids playing the guitar over on Washington Street and 3rd. I did a couple of years ago, I did a couple paintings for these girls in Africa who were suffering from fistulas, and just to kind of help bring awareness. So that's the kind of stuff I do, but I don't really make art. I like to say I don't make art, I make artists. So that's what I do. But at some point, I know when I get older, I will want to, do a series of paintings that I can, leave. But right now, I just get so much enjoyment working with you guys and having seeing you guys grow and do what it is that you do, but do it better. So that's my story, and I'll stick to it. When I was younger, I did the art thing, and I just won at it. I won a lot out of it, but I just, my brother told me years ago, he said, imagine when you're dead and you're laying in your coffin. What are the 3 things that you want people to remember you about, remember about you? And it took me like 2 or 3 weeks to kind of like really ponder that. And when I came out on the other end, it was very simple for me. It was that I'm an amazing dad. Like, that's super important to me. Not that I'm religious, but but that in my world, in my mind, that people will say he was a friend of God. Okay, that's really important to me. And then the third one is that I leave a mark on art history, like a mark that 2,000 years from now people are still affected by. And I just thought the way to do that is through educating people, rather than making a painting that would do it, And so, and I feel with technology, the fact that women are now able to have the freedom to communicate these amazing ideas that they've had in them for hundreds of years, but just didn't have the access to either information or opportunity to actually let it out. I think the combination of those 2 things, and I get to be part of that process, is an amazing gift. And so I want to see you, the men too, but reality is most of the people that will come to the academy will most likely be women. And
I think that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's cool, So we're gonna change the world. Do you like it or not?
This is some interesting questions that you asked yourself, and interesting conclusions you came to.
Yeah. There's more parts to it, you know. Yeah, I'll tell you a little quick story. You know, when I was 5 years old is when I figured that I had this power. Before then, my father was my real father, my biological father. He was a fighter and a boxer, and he was training me to be a boxer. And I remember at 5 years old, he passed away. He died, and I needed something to fill that void. And what came out of it was my ability to draw. So it was at 5 years old when I drew something from this. I copied it from this little book, and the people around me were so blown away by it that I was like, ooh, I kind of like this feeling, you know. I'll keep doing this. And a year later, I won my first award. I ended up winning over 100. I mean, every year of my life, I was just constantly winning. As I got older, that was my job, was to go and actually win awards for the prestige of the schools that I were in. And that's how I kind of went through college. I won awards, you know, through college. And so for me, ultimately, this leads to when I'm probably around 60, breaking this into some type of charity work where I have a heart for orphans and fatherless kids. And like life gave me the ability to design, I want to extend that back to them. But before I can do that, I need to build you guys and build what we're doing here. And, you know, and flood this world with beautiful art, because I think it's just full of shit right now. A lot of, not intentional. I think people have great intention and meaningful hearts, you know, but they don't have the knowledge. And so it's just a lot of chaos. Just a lot of ugliness being spewed out everywhere. And it breaks my heart because the artists they're willing to work hard and they're willing to work sincere and they're passionate. But it's kind of like a 9-year-old driving a car. They're sincere and they're passionate, but without the knowledge, they're behind a very, very powerful weapon. And they have no idea that they're on a rampage. And that's how I see art, because when you realize that lines trigger emotion, the question then is, what are you triggering in people? And you know. So anyways, I don't want to get too philosophical on that stuff, but
well, no, that's actually the point where I'm at. Exactly where you're getting to right there. I feel like if you were to take a look at, my online portfolio, you'd see a barrage of imagery that isn't necessarily all related. And, it's just stuff that I'm putting out there because just a little bit about myself, if I am not creating in that way, if I'm not composing pictures, if I'm not putting a brush to the canvas, if I'm not making in some way, shape or form, I fall into depression. So it's something I learned about myself a while ago that I don't know why, but I have to make art. I have to. And that might change in my life. I don't know, but that's where I'm at right now. Not to get too vulgar, but there was, a couple years back where I was just sort of dabbling and I thought, you know what, it's either shit or get off the pot, Karen. You either do it or you don't do it.
Yep.
That's when I started trying to paint almost every day. Because I thought I'm not going to get anywhere if I just put a painting out once a month. That's not going to do anything.
Yep.
That's not going to be satisfying to me. It's not going to be, it's not going to focus my artwork. Focus is the word I feel like I need now. I don't want to keep jumping back and forth between, a duck with shoes and and a scene from, Bangkok, or so I've been trying to focus groups of paintings. So like I did 30 paintings that were all figurative paintings. I want to try and really see where I'm at with the figure, see if I need to improve myself, and right now I'm doing, my 30 paintings, where some of them are these, sort of more whimsical, funny ones, but then I have this other idea that I'm working with.
What's your website real quick?
KarenWeberFineArt.com.
Karen Weber. I know I was. Oh, maybe I clicked over from your website or something, from your Facebook over.
Yeah, that's my Facebook.
Yeah, hold on. Let me go to the About page. So I know I was on your website yesterday or the day before.
Actually, Daily Paintworks might have the most updated images.
That's where it was. Yeah.
I have a website, but all of my images directed to my Daily Paintworks page, because that's where I have my commerce tool.
There it is. Yeah. I was actually, when I got on here, I was like, oh wow, you got some talent. I'm gonna be honest, like the scenes like where you have buildings in it, I just don't feel it. Okay. Yeah. I thought your birds, your animal paintings, I think almost all of them, it's triggering something in me. I also like to do, like this cat one, I think is just freaking brilliant. I mean, just all that beautiful movement and everything that's going on in that cat, and the fluffiness and the orange of the cat versus the background of that purple. There's so much that's going on there, and then you have this beautiful circling into the cat, into his little body, right, juxtaposed against those diagonals in the back. There's just so many design things that are happening that it doesn't surprise me that it's sold. And then if somebody who likes cats, if that's part of their taste, comes along, boom, this makes sense to buy. It just has so much life, so much personality to it. I love it. This, well, I guess it won't let me see what happened here.
There you go.
Like your landscapes, your cityscapes, they don't do it for me. They just lack a personality. But I think your animals are great, and I like your objects. There's something neat about those shoes, and I can see why people would collect those kind of paintings. Mm-hmm. I even like the animals with the stripes on the back. Again, they're animals. Mm-hmm. There's something cool about that phone. Now, I'm not sure why somebody would buy it. That's probably why they haven't bought it. But
it's also huge. It's like 2 feet by 3 feet.
Oh, what a big huge phone.
Real like for that kind of phone to buy it.
See, these are interesting because these little figures. When what I do is I look at it and I say, okay, if I'm looking at these 3 or 4 images, why? And I'm only looking at it design. Right? So you have a figure here and a figure here, but what's different about these 2 figures versus these 3? Even though that's Statue of Liberty, it's still a figure, right? So what's the difference between these? So all of them, like what I see automatically is I see a vertical thrust here, horizontal, vertical thrust here, horizontal. Now here it's a little bit of difference, okay? But here you can see it doesn't carry that space. So that's something that I would look at right away. Is designing more a little to the left.
What do you think about the one, it's on the left and it's that long vertical and it's half of a woman?
This one here?
And it's on the left, that one there. That one is one I wanted to explore that concept more.
Well, you know why? What's nice about this is, let me see if my annotation tool will do it. When I see this one, I feel the Kurtz, what do you call it? The Kurtz, I can't say it. I feel her going like this and then down, right? And you kind of feel that that little girl about ready to bow with her dress, right?
Yeah.
You feel it. And so you feel it and then you see the representation and they both align. and it's a nice design and it works, you know. Now, were you intentional about that? Or was it more intuitive?
Well, the compositionally, I was intentional about obviously dividing her in half. I was part of, and this might be too, simplistically, what I was looking at was the negative space. And same thing with that phone, for instance. I was really concerned about the different sizes of the negative space, the direction of the negative space, how the negative space filled the plane compared to the positive, you know, of the woman. And so that's what I've been working with actually with my most recent paintings too, is that real stark white background that if you can see it in person, there's a lot of texture. I do a lot of palette knife work with it, but it's still white pretty much. So I don't know. I'm interested in like isolating the subject. So even with like the ducks with the shoes on, it's sort of like an isolated subject with the white all around it. And it looks like it's just about the duck with the shoes on it, but it's about the negative space around it too. And
that's where the design part of it is telling that story. Composition is caring for you call it negative space. I just call it space, because really ultimately you're dealing with two elements, a line and a space. And so if it's a positive space or a negative space, what you're doing is you're creating shapes. And a shape is basically a relationship between space and line, right? So this is a rectangular shape. But what it is 4 lines with space on the outside and the inside. This heart shape is because there's a curved line, straight line, curve, and then there's space on the outside and the inside. So we call it picture perfect pixel puzzle, something like it's kind of like this funny little thing. But it's where when everything's locked into the grid, and the grid is the DNA, if you will, of the rectangle that you're in. So if this is your rectangle, there's actually a specific, you know, this is what we were talking about today, is how do you break this up?
Right.
Now, you could break this up and come into a square. So this is where that part of her dress is, right? So naturally, if your eye's looking at the bottom, it's going to come up and look for a measurement that's a square. It's automatically going to do that. And then you gave it something to rest on. And it makes sense. Okay, my eye comes about here, and now it curves over here, and it moves up this thrust, and then it gets caught up in here, and you gave the eye this experience to come all the way up in here. Or you could do it backwards, right? So it's traveled from one corner to the other corner in this pleasing, logical way. Now, you know, would I put this hard contrast down here? I'd probably lower that contrast a lot so that you really felt this part up here, you know, things like that. But so yes, the negative space is important. But what I will get you to do is just kind of think of the composition as a whole. And your negative space and your positive space are just going to work really, really well together. What happens is a lot of artists start playing them with that quote-unquote negative space. And that gets a little tricky because you don't want to have too much space that it looks like it's just empty, right?
Right.
But that's where I keep calling it the math, but that's where the math comes in, because it tells you exactly where to create those boundaries so that the space on one side and the space on the other feel like they're harmonious, they're working together, that they're balanced. Yeah, I like that. Now I like your bird ones, but I can see like a lot of people don't because they're not selling them, right?
Well, they're only a couple months old too, so.
Well, fair enough.
Actually, the roosters and like starting with that black crow up, they're from just November. So.
Oh, okay. The little Boston Terrier.
Some of them sell immediately, so those are the ones I pay attention to too. Because some of them, like some of the people will just buy them right away.
Uh-huh.
And that's what happened when I started making the birds and shoes.
Well, see, it's funny because you call them birds and shoes, right? But look at these birds here. What would you call these?
Well, I'll tell you, the idea behind the birds with the stripes behind them is this, and this simply. I show my work at a lot of different outside venues, and one of them is Sailor House in West Reading, and it's an interior design shop.
Okay.
And they sell a lot of my birds. And I think I explained this to you about the stripes, where I will often go and get a palette, like from Lowe's or something like that, and I look at the colors that are in her shop, and I kind of mimic those colors to basically go along with people's furniture. So I like to paint birds, but I like people to buy them too. So that's
So what we can do then is that might be something we work on, where we design the birds, right? You design the stripes, and again, we come to a black and white value study, no color. And then you bring that catalog to that interior designer, and she can then order the designs that they like, but then you can then go ahead and paint it in the exact colors that fit that room. And all you're doing is matching the values then, right? So if it's a green or an orange or whatever.
right.
So that way you can allow the designer to design, giving them the opportunity to, use your artwork that fits their vision. And that's one of the parts of the composition process that I really enjoy, is that it gives the artist the ability to replicate, their work and make money doing different things with it. Now, I'll tell you what I see right off the bat between this set of birds and these up here, these animals, is the fact that when I see in these animals, I see two nouns and a background, and here I see one noun and a background. And so there's something about the interaction between two subjects or two entities that gets a person. Norman Rockwell said one of the secrets to his success was the fact that he could make you feel two feelings in the same image. And this is why we call it changing the charge and moving from the dark to the light, whatever it is, right? So we put that in there. So these butterflies are cool. I think they're cool. But at the same time, design-wise, they're kind of boring, because it's like, okay, I see the butterfly. Now what? Right? Now what? So, cat here. Now what? Now this is kind of neat, because you kind of feel the cat being squished up here, almost like he's ready to pounce out of something, That's a kind of neat energy that's going on in here. Like this bird here, it'd be kind of neat to put a branch right here that's coming the other way, because now you feel like, oh, he's landing. Like you feel that animation.
Right. Actually, if you zoom in on that guy, I think that might be the one. He's about to catch a bug. No, that's not the one. In fact, the one that was about to catch a bug.
With a bug. I love that story. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's one I did. It's probably down further, way down. It may not even be on there, actually. I did another flying bird, and he was about to catch a bug, and actually I think he sold. And I don't think he's on there. I don't think I ever posted him, because I sold him through Sailor House before I was even ever able to post it. But yes, he was about to catch a bug. And then, like you said, there's a story there. So.
And that's more of a narrative, but it also gives the eye something to finish. Like it has a start, it transitions, which is the middle, and then it has an end. And so just on that level, I like your Statue of Liberties. Obviously, there's a patriotism taste to it, right? But I also like this nice thrust that it has. There's something about it, quote unquote, that makes it feel good,
Incidentally, my next Statue of Liberty is going to be wearing Chucks.
Awesome. Nice.
I don't know. I hope that's not unpatriotic, but it's gonna happen.
I think it's cool. I love these boats too. The boats are nice.
The boats sell immediately. If I paint a boat, it sells. I mean, it's not because of me; it's because of the boat.
But this is a beautiful design.
What?
This is a beautiful design. You know, I just think, you know, you have this one in the middle. I mean, right here, which obviously is the main character of this story. He's surrounded by his, you know, his entourage. But he's a star, you know, and he stands out. And it's just nicely done. Really, really nicely done. You know, we were looking at a hopper the other day, and it was it a hopper? Not a hopper, a turner. And it was kind of cool how he had a guy in a boat, but he had the painting here, a little sun here, the ocean was out here or whatever. There's a couple little things over here. And then he had basically like the shore coming in like this, right? Like right here, he had the guy on the boat with the oars. And what was neat was when you looked at it deeper, what it really was a nice ellipse, another ellipse, and there was like 3 in a row or something. And you just had the feeling of like the rowing of that boat, you know? Like if you put the oars in there and you pulled, he would go from here to here. But the little circles kind of made you feel like the rowing of it.
Right.
And that's something when you start looking at masterworks, they're fully animated. You know, they're not trying to capture a moment in time. They're trying to animate it. There was 3 Renoir paintings down in the Philadelphia Museum, and these paintings have not been together in almost 100 years. They were designed together, but 2 are in this one museum, and another one I think is a private collection. And what happened is they put the 3 paintings up, not thinking that the guy who commissioned the 3 paintings had a room in his house that Renoir composed and designed the 3 paintings for the space. And so they just randomly, they put them up in his space. But what happened was, is I realized that they're all built on root 3 rectangles. I think it was a root 3 rectangle. And if I took this and I made a root 3 here, they all locked in. And when you adjusted them, it was kind of like a moment in Indiana Jones. All of a sudden, the diagonal in here went through this image and down into here, and this came over here. This curve here flew through here. And all of a sudden, these 3 separate dancers became an animation, and it was really one dancer dancing through these 3 different stages of this dance. And so the owner could sit there and just watch the dance. Wow. It was just beautiful and magical. And the Philadelphia Art Museum had it up, and they missed it, you know. Oh. And in 100 years, these things came together, and they did not understand design, and so they missed it. A bunch of people came and looked at the paintings, never experienced the composition. Sad.
Did they put them in the wrong order or something? Or?
Yeah, well, the spacing. The painting was
next to each other.
Yeah. You know what? If you give me a second, I have it on my computer. If you want to see it.
Yeah.
Let me see it here. Let's see.
Give me like 30 seconds. I'll be right back. Thank you for spending so much time here with me, Victor.
Yeah, it's my Achilles heel. No, I when I start talking about this stuff, I just get so energized that, you know, it is what it is, and I kind of have to like really force myself to shut it off. So this is one of Martin's pieces that he designed.
Actually, my screen's still up. My daily paint
Sorry.
worksheet. That's okay.
Hold on. So this is one of Martin's images that he
The guy who
designed.
was on with us today?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
This is just a beautiful process, and normally we don't allow tangents, but in his piece, the story, it supported the story, which was this moment of spinning into each other, dancing into each other to the point where you didn't know where one began and one ended,
Right.
And so does our foot land here, or is that the back of his leg? It all works well. You can see, like, even the value choices of how dark this is compared to how light that is. I mean, all of these decisions all are made based on what the story is. But that's not what I wanted to show you. I'm trying to look for the. Let's see here. Okay. Maybe I have to come up with a different. Hold on. Is this it? No. Okay. When I'm going to spell it wrong, but here we are. Oh, cool. Found you.
What version of Photoshop do you have that you're using?
I have the CC one, the most updated one. I pay like a monthly subscription for it. Okay, so this is the way that they had it up. Okay, so it was like, okay, this is cool, like, and they want to put the little placards next to them because in their mind these are three different images.
Right.
And so what I did was I took the size of the rectangles, figured out where they were behind the paintings, and then I took that same rectangle and I flipped it and then brought them in and centered one in the middle. So this is what you have versus this. It's not a big difference, but it's enough that when you look at it like this.
Do you have them in the same order, or they're in a different order than what the museum?
Same order.
Okay.
They had them in the right order. It's just how far they're away from each other.
And the placards in between, right?
Yeah, get rid of the placard, right? Get rid of this and get them closer. Now, how close? You take one of the rectangles, since they're all built in the same rectangle, and you take that and you flip it and you extend it out so that that big rectangle around the three is the same as the height of, is the same rectangle that the three images are constructed in.
Okay.
Okay?
Ratio-wise.
Ratio-wise. And then that's what happens. So when we go from here, we can see that there's a curve. Our best flows back through here. You can kind of begin to feel it. I'm going to redo my slides. If we come in and we find a rebated square inside, not inside each individual picture, but in the whole, we can see how if we come up the height here and we come across the width, boom, this guy lands right there. It's the same thing from here. Boom. Like this couple is right there smack dab in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. Now we come up these diagonals. Boom, her face is on here. Guess what? Her face is also on this one. They're both red hats.
Right.
So, we have an object, a hat down here. I actually went in Photoshop and took it out. If you take this out, it throws it off. It goes out of whack. So he actually has to have it, but he also has to have it over here to balance it out, right? So now if we come in here and we start bringing in the lines of the reciprocal and the main, we start to see how the bottom of his feet, look at the top of his foot, the bottom of his foot, same exact thing on both sides. His head here, the hands are together over here, the hands are together on this one. Now if this was shifted over, these things would not come into alignment. Look at the fan, right? There's just so much information is there. When you start blocking it out, right? So now we see her back and a little bit of her side. Now we see the other side and her back, and now we see her front, right? So now he's twisted her back. Dun, dun, and they're all dancing together now.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
And so when we come back up to this arabesque up here, where is it? Right here, we can see how the figures in the back are curving. Her dress is curving, coming up through here. It comes up through her back, actually her curve in the back, coming down through the dress, back up through his front, and then it's being repeated out. And so each of these are actually 3 different dances, but the collection is about experiencing these dances together. And it's just beautiful, very, very different experience. And
understanding the language was what helped you to understand that.
Exactly. So let me go back to your, can you see your paintings?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
well, I guess, where I'm at, pretty much as we figured, I want to know what I should focus my time on. My time, I'm a parent. I have a college-age daughter, and you met my son.
Mm-hmm.
One of my goals for this year is to spend more time with my family.
Yeah.
To do that, I feel like I need to focus what I paint, because if I just keep sort of throwing darts into the dark, I'm going to be painting things that are maybe a waste of time, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, exactly. And that's going to ultimately make you more depressed, because you're going to look around and say, man, I did all this work.
Yeah.
And the reality is, it was good what you did. You did quantity, right? You had to go in and put in your work. You had to go in and put in the effort. And you learned a lot of things. Now it's time for quality. You're going to slow down. You're going to think a lot more. You're going to make a lot more intelligent decisions and messes, but they're going to be intelligent. And you're going to have a community of people. So before you be putting that up in a gallery, you're already going to have a group of people who want to know how to feel, pull out what's working, what's not working. You're going to get the opportunity to correct it on several occasions. So that way, by the time the public gets it, it's worked out. And and you can go in with a level of confidence that you'll be able to speak with. I don't really know Michelle before she started studying with me. But when she came, I think, I don't know if I told you the story or not, but when she came, she had a show that she needed to get into, that she was, not had to, but she was in. And she's like, in 3 months, I have to do these flag paintings, but I'm so tired of painting freaking flag paintings. And because she was focused on representation, and she didn't know how to put passion into it. She didn't know how to tell a story. She didn't know how to make it meaningful outside of, it's patriotic if there's a flag in it, That's kind of like saying, how many times, do you hear, let's say a man will say to a woman, I got you a house, that's all you need to make a home, And it's like, no, a home is not a house, right? They're very, very different. And I know I'm being stereotypical when I say that, but there's a difference between the image and the spirit of something. And And that's what we want to focus on, is making sure that you capture the spirit, because people are buying your images. And you can spend more time trying to, make it look more real or whatever. But that's a waste of time, because Van Gogh's paintings did not look real. So if you want the quality of a Van Gogh, you have to know how he designed it. Right. Starry Night, every starry night, every star in the sky was strategically placed on a grid. I actually did a video on it. It was insane. Well, holy crap. Like it wasn't just random. If you read his books, he talks about it. He talks about his letters to his brother. He talks about the gridding and things like that. So what we want to do is focus on the quality, okay? Do you have any other artists in your family?
Professional?
No. I mean, but like, or yes, I don't know.
My daughter is very, very artistic, but that's not what she's going to school for. But she spends a lot of her time drawing.
Okay. What is she going to school for?
She's going for physical therapy.
Oh, that's cool. So.
And my father turns wood.
And your dad carves wood?
Turns wood, yeah.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. Let's take this here. Now, I'm going to propose something a little different to you, okay? Normally what I do is, I already told you my pricing, right? Which is the 2 payments of $15 and $75. Now, we normally work on a series of 5 images, okay? What I'm putting together right now, and I'll present it to you first, okay? And then you tell me what your thoughts are and things like that. Is what I'm trying to do is there's 2 parts of of what I'm trying to do. One is to help the artist build better work, compose better work, okay? The second part is I want you guys to make a lot of money. And tomorrow I have a meeting with these website guys who are going to build out the website for the selling platform that we're rolling out here. I wanted to roll it out in 3 months from now, but they convinced me that it's better to start it now and then kind of get it populated through the internet. And I've been around websites and stuff for the last 10 years, so I know they're not BSing me. So I agree with them. So this is what we're looking to do. I want to build with the artist a relationship for 18 months, okay? So over the next year and a half, I want to help you. And if it happens in less time, that's totally cool, okay? I want to help you build out 25 images, okay? And the reason why I want 25 is because that's either one huge collection of 25, which basically gives you your own show, right? Or you can build out some type of combination of maybe 10, like a smaller collection of 10 or 5 collections of 5. So if you want to do your fowl and your boats and your, the things that are selling, and we can break them up into smaller collections, that's absolutely fine. So it'll be an 18-month commitment, okay? The price for the month stuff is still the same, which is $75, okay? Now, don't get scared when I say this, okay? What I'm looking for is a $12,000 commitment from the artist. But this is the key. I only want you guys over the next 18 months to contribute or commit to 25% of that, which is $3,000 over the next year and a half. Okay? Because I want to have the art investors contribute the other 9, the other 75%. And this is the plan for that other 75%. I want to market the hell out of what we're calling AOC certified artists who take the time to compose their artwork. And put you guys in magazines and flood the internet and just literally like just dominate that space. And that's where that other money comes in. But I can't really sell that to an investor if, you know, there's not a commitment on the other end by the artist. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I think, you know, if we're going to get started now, you kind of already committed to the 15, and what we're just saying is sometime in the next year and a half, basically 9 months from now. My thought is it takes us 9 months to build out the artwork, and then we take another 9 months and market the hell out of it, okay? And sell it, you know? So that's what my plan was for 2017. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm going to preface it with saying that, you know, when I went to art school, I graduated in 1993, and the general philosophy was, you know, make art, don't think about the money end of things. If you even start talking about trying to make money with your artwork, well, you're not a real artist. And so I think I said this to you, I had to unlearn so many things.
Mm-hmm.
Graduating from art school, because I don't know what the heck they expect. They throw you out the door saying goodbye after you graduate, good luck, and then that's it. That's all you get.
Yep.
You know, I have a family now, and I love to make art. Like I said, I have to make art. I'm lucky I have a supportive husband who said, you know what, Karen, I mean, I did have a job. I had, you know, had many jobs in my life. But you know what, I think you need to focus on your artwork now. I think this is what you need to do. So luckily he's supportive of me. I sub for the school districts on and off when we need a little extra money, but otherwise I'm allowed to stay home and make my artwork. I'm ready to do this. I'm all about, you know, making beautiful artwork, but I also want to sell it. I want to sell my artwork. And the other part of it is, you know, the price point I'm at right now is not reasonable for making a living on. So that was one of my questions I had for you is, you know, I have paintings that are, you know, a lot of them are under $100. I would have to continue working my fingers and still not really make a living off of it.
No, not at all.
So I'm assuming that that's the other part. I feel like there's a glass ceiling that I'm just not able to break through. You know, I feel like there's this limitation. Perhaps it's because I'm in Berks County, and, you know, Berks County doesn't have the kind of patronage. I'm not sure what it's about, but that's the other part that I feel like I need right now, is to figure out how to break through to collectors who are willing to spend the money on good art. So I'm guessing that that's what you're talking about too.
Oh, and it is. And you know, there's the people who spend millions of dollars on art, right? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about creating artwork that people are willing to spend, you know, a couple $100, you know, $500, $600, $700, $800, $10,000 range, right? Also,
yeah, I'm wanting to make, you know, a living.
Yeah.
I know I won't become a millionaire. But.
You know, so if we could, you know, bring an extra $20,000 into your life this year, you know, then that's amazing, you know. So now, how do we do that? One of the characteristics that I want for artists at the studios is, I mean, at the academy, is we know how to compose. We know how to talk about composition. We know how to go into a gallery and read it. When we're with people, we can share our story, show how the design's working to fulfill that story. That educates that visitor, you know, that patron who's looking at and experiencing the work. It gives you confidence. So if right now paint on a canvas is selling at $120 for you, or whatever it might be, right? How much more will it sell if all of these other things are cared for? Because it's just an increase in its value. So we call it we say that we have a museum quality, a mansion quality, museum quality, and mutual fund quality. And when we develop our compositions, we're shooting for that mutual fund quality, okay? And what that means is this, that when you come up with a story and you design it, the people who buy that are going to be art buyers. They're going to be the family who has a mansion, a big house, and they need to fill it with artwork. They're doing decorative stuff, right? Is where you're going to be dealing with your interior designers. And so what do you need? You need story and you need design in those two things. If they're going to commission a portrait of their children, like you saw with Donna today, that's they're buying that artwork, they're commissioning that. What's really important about that is the design and the story. Now, the museum quality people, first of all, with those buyers, the motivating factor is pleasure. They want that artwork to make them feel good. And it's also, in terms of time, the value of it is how does it make them feel now, okay? So it's about immediacy, it's about feeling good, it's about telling a story, it's about design. Now, the second layer is what we call museum quality. These people are more concerned about how does your artwork hold up in relationship to history. See, when you start designing this way, and you can go to a sergeant and say, hey, look at what sergeant does here, and this is what I did. We're speaking the same language. Now you're connected to history in a way that you've never been connected to before. And what's beautiful about these is these are the people who are collecting the artwork, right? So you want to make sure that it's composed really, really well. You want to make sure that the quality of paint that you're using, the framing, all that, it's just, the key here is quality, right? That every line, that every space is ordered and intentional, that the frame, I had a lady in a gallery once tell me that her clients who come in and buy these, 8.5 by 11 little paintings for $10,000, like, they're so picky on quality. Like, if they like it, they like it. But then they'll turn the painting around and make sure that the framing is right, because they're buying the object. They're not just buying the image on the canvas.
Right.
And so what's the quality, the whole experience that you're putting into this image and this artifact? And then we have the mutual fund people. And they're the ones who are motivated. The museum people are motivated by prestige, right? It's like, look what I have, right? So the other group, the mutual fund quality, they're motivated by profit, okay, and wealth protection. So, for example, there are some real estate developers who buy artwork. They get to shift some of their wealth into the artwork. And when the economy hit, a lot of developers were saved because of their artwork, because they could then liquidate their artwork and get the cash without having to, put their business in bankruptcy.
Well, it's really funny because I have a friend who's a friend of Michelle's.
Uh-huh.
And he was talking. He was just talking about her artwork and everything, and he said, "Yeah, I know a woman who owns probably about 20 of Michelle's paintings, and that's her 401k." That's exactly how he said it, and I was like, "Yeah."
And so now, when you come in the academy and we set you up, we're going to ask you to pick a price point. Okay, so let's say you start at $2.50. Let's say $2, right? A square inch. Now you make these small paintings, so that's going to be really, really cheap for you, but there's no reason why you can't go bigger, 16 by 20, something a little bit bigger, right? And then also, if you're going to do the smaller ones, well, you can do them as prints. We can set you up so that you can begin to systemize things. So like you can do all your designs, and if somebody wants that painting, you print it out on the canvas and then you go paint it. And so you've made $100 for that little bit of work, for a few hours of painting it. or whatever. So with the mutual fund people, like, we want them to purchase the work, let's say at a rate of $2 a square inch. And if you tell them, hey, I increase, no matter what, I increase my rate at 50 cents a year, then they know that in 4 years, that painting that they bought at $2 a square inch doubles itself. In 8 years, well, probably about 10 years, it triples itself, right? So they know logically, and you can have an intelligent conversation like, no, this is how I got my pricing. It's just not pulled out of my butt. This is how it breaks down. And now $2 is pretty cheap. You probably should start around $3 to $4 a square inch, especially if you're spending all this time composing. But you have a systematic way that says, okay, over the next 10 years, this is where I'll project the painting will be. So these are the kind of conversations that we want to have with the people who are buying it. And then also give them the ability to buy originals at a high premium, because you'll have prints that you can sell. The website guys that I'm talking to tomorrow, they come with all that print background. And so right there off the website, if you want to print, boom, it goes to one of the top printers in the country. They have a network of 3 of them, and they'll print it, frame it, ship it, take care of it for you. So you don't have to put all that money up front, right? It's on demand, basically. And so that's what I want for you guys. Now, if we build a website and put it out there, nobody's going to know about it. That's why we really, really need to market the hell out of it. And hold on 1 second. I don't need that. It's just an unknown. And so that's where we want to be, because in 3 years, we're already a year and a half into it. So in a year and a half, I want the Academy, what we're doing, to be a place of influence, and people be like, holy shit, we can tell that those artists have gone to the Academy. Also, when you go through the Academy process, we want to be able to certify your work so that people know. See, what's happening right now is, like in a lot of different sectors of life, people are just tired of bullshit, Karen, right? Like when it comes to religion or politics or whatever, like advertising, we're just tired of the bull crap and the lying and the inauthenticity of people, right? Art.
So we are in the age of wanting authenticity.
Yeah. So
I've been thinking that for a while. That's what I'm actually, sorry to interrupt you, but the objects that you were saying that you're drawn to those, some of them in my paintings, like the shoes and the phone and whatnot. I feel like that's of a time of more authenticity, and I feel like that's what resonates with people.
Yeah. I mean, you're bringing it, you're tapping into nostalgia, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And you're making them laugh, so you're triggering 2 emotions at the same time, making them smile, which is a nice thing. So this is where we're at. This is where we're pushing to. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know if it's going to work out, So far, things are working out pretty nicely. And what is nice is that for some reason over the last 20 years, I've attracted very wealthy people around me. And I keep hearing the same story from them, and that's this. We don't invest in stocks. We don't invest in paper. One of the guys, he told me how he invests. He says, when I invest, let's say I want to buy a boat company, I really don't want stocks or to be on any boards or any of that stuff that just consumes my time and my money. What he does is he basically buys the boat, and the people build it, and their job is then to sell it as they're building it. And once that first boat is built, he buys the second boat, right? So that way, that's how he invests. He actually is getting a physical thing. One of my old bosses, he was telling me we go out to dinner every month, and he says, I don't like to invest in stocks and things. I like to buy businesses. And I'm like, huh, that's the second time I heard that. And so these guys, they have, and there's another third, there's actually an investor in art local here that I know. And so these three guys, I want them to be kind of like that first round of investors. But they're all interested in art at some level. Even the two of them have never been into art until they started seeing my stuff. And then now they're like, damn it, man, like I can't look at anything without seeing the story and lines and things, right? And what's beautiful about that, Karen, is once you get these guys who have some money, who you can share the mutual fund quality to them, the museum quality, and the mansion quality, right? All three we hit at the Academy. And they're the type of people who want to put their money into something physical, just like you were saying about the person with Michelle's paintings, right? And they're starting to get some interest in art. Like that's the kind of people that we want, and that's why I was asking you, like, if I do a presentation here at the Lewis Long Gallery, I just don't want artists to show up, which is good, but I also want to see if we can get a couple of the doctors and the lawyers, like people who have some wealth that they could put into it, but may just have not really thought about really investing in art. And the presentation that I do will show the artist one way of creating art that they've never seen before. And you've seen some of that today. And it's going to show people, the public, how to engage in art in a way that they've never experienced before. And those who, with the potential of investing, they're going to see a value in art that they've never seen before. And so the way I present it is so accessible to all three people that they will, unless they're blind and deaf, they will leave changed. And I guarantee, like, they'll never see art the same way again. And so when they start going into a gallery or looking at buying art, they're going to start to say, well, what's the story? And they're going to start looking for the lines. And now they've been contaminated because they'll never be fooled again because they're looking past the image.
Right.
And when they start looking for work of that type of quality, you're there to sell because you're the one who meets those questions. Like, we give them the questions to ask. And when they ask those questions of your work, the answers are there. So they know, oh, this is where this would be a wise investment. Plus, it has a great story and design, which makes me feel good right now. And it's cool. It gives me prestige. I can tell my friends that, yeah, this thing is designed in the same way. Look at this Rembrandt over here. It's, you see this happening. Look at, I have a painting that does that by a modern artist, So you can see like the stories that they'll be able to tell. And that's it. So that was my goal for 2017, was to elevate the Academy, just not in the teaching part, but now to develop what we call the collector part of it. And so I'm presenting it to you for the first time. You're the first person I presented it to. So
okay. Well, I think you're on the right track. I think that's what I'll tell you. When I'm in the gallery, working, a lot of times patrons who come in will be like a mother and their teenage daughter or son who's thinking about going to art school. And the first bit of advice I always give them is make sure that art school has a business minor that they require that it takes, because that was not my experience. And when I went to art school, and from what I understand, most art schools do not have a business minor that they require, not even one single business course that they require. What do they expect artists to do? How do they expect them to sell their work? Most artists are not business people, naturally. It's just not how it is. So I've been putting a lot of thought into this. And some of the things that you're saying, I've thought about. Some of them I'm like, that's where I'm missing. That's what I'm missing. As far as breaking into mutual fund market, I don't even know that I have the wherewithal to do it. I don't.
Well, hold on that. There is actually people who actually do mutual funds, but these people are buying millions and millions of dollars worth, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of paintings. We only call it mutual fund to make you think about investors. It's not really
the categorizing of it.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just mean that's I think part of the glass ceiling that I would like to tap into. So I think it's so integral. I mean, there are people who don't want to sell their art, and that's fine.
Yep.
I think the majority of us would like to.
Yep. And right now, it's funny. There's a big art investor, collector, dealer, and I just discovered him the other day, and oh my God, it's kind of funny. They try to curse him by calling him the Donald Trump of the art world. It's kind of funny because he just says the most horriblest things to most people in the art world, because there's so much BS that's going around that he'll just be like these people were talking about this $120 million Modigliani, right? And he's like, what does that have to do with anything? And they're like, well, it's people are buying art. And he's like, this has nothing to do with art, right? And he's explaining how a Chinese guy invented something, made a lot of money, and basically bought a Modigliani for $120 million just because he freaking could. He had no interest in art. He doesn't study it. He doesn't care about it. He just did it because he can. And I love the way he said it. He said, these people just go shopping, I'll buy a Lamborghini today because I can.
Right.
Now, he says, if we stop focusing on that, because there's only about 12 artists that these people keep buying and swapping back and forth, right? But we go down underneath it, and then all of a sudden there's this huge stream of art and wealth that we can play in. And right now with technology, with the stuff that I'm teaching, I mean, there's just so many things that are converging that to me it's almost like an absolute no-brainer that we're winning at it. And people want to put their art in it. Now there are two parts of this. How are we going to get the investors to give $9,000, right? So there are two things I asked from you guys to contribute. Okay. This will be for the artists. I mean, for the investors, right? So the one is what we call a collector's kit, okay? And so this is the concept of the collector's kit. The collector's kit is this. If somebody who's new to art, right, wants to collect, and they'll go out and they'll start buying small little items, right? And they'll gradually build up. So the thought is that over a year, each month we send one or two little studio pieces that have not sold, that are just laying around your studio, right? Just collecting dust, and we give it away. And basically it's kind of like feeding the chickens, right? And maybe every quarter they might get a couple of these little pieces that builds their collection. They're not really valuable pieces necessarily, but it just makes them feel like, oh, wow, I got something physical from that artist, right? So now, let's say we're talking to maybe like a young doctor who in 5 years goes, he leaves his apartment, he buys a house because now he has a family. And he wants to fill his house with artwork. And he's looking around and he has these little drawings. They're like small works, little studio studies of, color swatches, studies, little drawings, sketches, that kind of stuff. And he wants to fill his house up with artwork. Who do you think he's going to contact?
Well, us.
Yeah. Because people buy from people they know. And as he grows and he's willing to spend more money, he's going to go to he's going to take his collection to the next level. And so that's what the collector's kit is. So what we want is, just a collection of like 20, 25 little sketches, drawings that then we can then send out to these investors, right? To keep them not interested, but to kind of give them that experience of making them feel like they're collecting and it's artwork that's coming to them. That's to build that desire. Okay. And at the end, when you have, and then the second part of it is, out of the 25 images that you do in your collection, okay, we have one of two options that we'll present to the investor. They can get, for their collection, 2 unframed pieces, okay, out of the 25 images, okay? So ultimately, that'll leave you with somewhere between 21 and 23 paintings that you'll be able to sell, okay? Or, depending on your style and what you do, they could choose to get one commissioned piece from the artist that they support, okay? And what's nice about that is then I will work with both of you. Let's say he says, hey, I want a commissioned piece, I don't like ducks, but I like geese. Yeah, I don't know, whatever, right? And what we'll do is we'll get on a Zoom and we'll have those conversations, right? So that I can show you how to talk to a person who's commissioning your work, and I can talk to the person commissioning it and bring out a truer work of art, because we're bringing out a truer story from them. And once we have that, and you saw that that's kind of what we were doing with Donna, all the way in the beginning. So, and that's something that's strange to me, but I'm realizing more and more that artists just don't know how to do. They don't know how to talk to the, and mainly because they think, oh, I'm going to do a commission piece. Let's say it's a portrait, right? Then all they're going to do is focus on representation, the likeness. Well, does it look like the person? Give me some photos so I can copy. And what they're not doing is they're not designing a functional work of art that actually psychologically broadcasts something, that psychologically triggers things inside the person. So, for example, if you're a businessman and you want to take your business to another level, you might want to commission a piece that will inspire this idea of breaking through something and achieving something, right? Now, we might cloak it in a landscape. We might cloak it in their trip to Italy, right? If that's what they're looking for. We might cloak it in boats, right? Because they might really like your boat style. And yet we can design those boats to trigger inside the person who's viewing it this sense of breaking through and achievement and accomplishing more, because we're designing it to actually convey that energy. So they would have that option. They would have the option of either 2 unframed pieces that you're making or 1 commissioned work that we would work with them. And that's it,
Well, I like that idea too. I've done actually quite a few commissions, and some of them have been more successful than others, and I think it's really because of what you're talking about. Actually, one of the commissions is on this Daily Paintworks page here. It's 2 young girls, and I thought I captured their likeness pretty well, but keep going up. I think it might be on the first page.
On the first page.
Keep going down.
Here.
There it is. Yep. but there is just something that's dead about it. And they were happy with it. I'm happy with it, but not happy with it at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they wanted, I went and took, you know, a million pictures of these two little girls, and I wound up, you know, putting together different pieces of pictures to compose that exact composition, because neither one of them could stand long enough to actually stand there like that. That the part of it I'm happiest with is actually the blonde girl's face and her hands. I like that gesture, but there's something else. I mean, I chose the real dark brown background because they had given me a picture. It was a portrait of a little girl that had that same color background, and that they're just like, that's what we want. They want dark brown background. I guess they went with their furnishings. I don't know, but I feel like there wasn't enough of a story there in the picture too. I mean, so I hope they're happy with it. They said they were happy with it, but I myself was not as happy with it as I could be.
Sure. What do you think, like, just on a visual level, what's one thing that's just absolutely throwing you off when you look at this image?
Something about the older girl's arm bothers me. How they're both staring in the camera.
Mm-hmm.
I think how classical of a composition it is, how rigid it is, and the fact that these two little girls were so vibrant. They were just, especially the little blonde. I mean, she just had such energy, and I don't know. I just don't know if I captured that.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
if you take your hand and like cover up the bottom part of the image, so like you get rid of her feet, it almost begins to work a lot better.
Yeah, the feet don't.
Yeah, because you have the highest point of contrast right in that bottom leg.
Okay.
Right there, and so even when you want to look at the girls, your eye just drops, right, and so it becomes a struggle of trying to look them in the face when you can't, because visually your eye wants to go to the high point of contrast, which is right there where the edge of the dress and that leg meet.
Right.
And it's almost like there's a light up underneath her dress of some sort, right?
Yes, that's true.
And so once you just cut that off, all of a sudden your eye is so much more peaceful. It can just kind of float around their face.
Yep, you're right. Yep. Well, that horse has ran away by now.
That's the kind of stuff, like, it breaks my heart because you put so much time into something. Let's say this wasn't a commissioned piece, but you just had a painting like this. And sometimes it could just be, you have everything looking over here, but then you have this high point of contrast over in this other corner, and it just, I call it this, I say it this way. Every layer of composition speaks. It has a voice, right? So this is why it's absolutely important you understand your story, and every decision you make supports the story. So when you come to value and you say, okay, where's the highest point of contrast, right? Well, in this case, it's in the feet. Does that support the story? No. Now, unless they were both runners, or like in Donna's case, where they're splashing and jumping in the water, right? Then it works. So in this case, it doesn't. And so what happens is your line work is pointing you to the faces. The story is pointing you to the faces. The composition is doing that, but the value then is speaking its own language. And so when these different layers of composition are speaking their own language, it becomes schizophrenic, right? All these different voices telling different stories coming out of one body, which is the painting. Right. And so that's why I kind of get a little anal retentive, like, what's your story? What's your story? Every decision you make, from the grid that you put it in to the values that you use, all of it comes back to what's your story. Message over medium. So everything is spoken with a very, very clear voice. And but that's cool. That's cool.
Well, Victor.
Yes.
One last question. I gotta go, actually, but okay. So I know that Actually, let me say goodbye to my daughter. She's going to work. Hang on a second.
Okay.
Goodbye, I know that, I want to join you in your academy. I know that I cannot afford the website or the selling part of it, the $3,000. I cannot invest that right now. I don't even know if you're ready for that right now anyway, but as far as the coaching and instruction, is that possibly a payment plan that I could pay you?
Yeah, my thought is this. I would like for you to sign up on my original deal, which was 15 at the 75 a month, okay? That gets you the coaching. In 9 months, like if you signed up for the big deal with the investors and all that stuff, the way we would do that is the same exact thing, 75 a month, 15, okay? And then in 9 months, you would come back with another 15, and that's when we would start pushing the marketing. Because we can't market something that doesn't exist, really, right? So the first 9 months, if it takes only 4 months or 6 months, cool, right? But the first 9 months, you're learning and you're building this collection. And so what I would say is let's go ahead and just start you where everybody else has started, which is one collection of 5, okay? And we'll focus on that 5 so that you can learn the process, okay? Once we're done with that, then we can kind of, look at the other 20 images over the next year and a half and worry about that, okay? So, yeah, I can do a payment. Is 2 payments okay for you?
Probably would work out.
Okay. So we'll just do 2 payments. The first month is free for the meetup. So what I'll have you do is I'll send you 2 PayPal links, okay?
Okay.
So the first one, you sign up on it, and it will, you pay this $750, okay? And then next month it'll automatically just pull that out, okay?
Okay.
And then the other link, you'll set up a $75 payment, but the first month is free, so nothing will come out. It'll just automatically come out next month. So, so next month you'll pay $750 plus $75. The month after that, it'll just be $75. Okay.
Okay.
And then if I get that to you today and you sign up today, then that'll just be $750 today. Then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and set you up with. Is it Tuesday mornings okay for you for the meetups?
I think Tuesday mornings usually work pretty well.
Okay. So then I'll set you up in this den, okay? This is what we call it. All right. And I'll get you access to the videos and the academy so you can start to get that information, okay? And then what we'll want from you for next week, for next Tuesday, is really just to come with what do you want your collection to be on? Unless you already know. And I know you've done a lot of things, but like pick one of these that we can like really focus on.
No, I have to think about what I'm trying to say. I really have just started understanding, this is going to sound funny, but I really just started to understand that I really like to make people happy. Like, awesome. I'm the one who can walk into the room, and if there's somebody who's not feeling very good, I can have a nice conversation in the end where we're laughing together.
It's awesome.
And I have that ability, and I found that my artwork, I enjoy painting the stuff that makes people smile. Like even the man down there on the bottom left who's walking his little dog, I painted that little dog because he made me smile, his little wiener butt.
That's funny.
So I don't, this is very new to me, the concept that's where my art might be taking me. I up until now, honest to God, Victor, I've really been about material, which is what you said you don't want to focus on, but I've been about material and how the material is applied. You can notice, the edges, how my edges disappear in some areas, and how, the brush stroke is different in certain areas. That's where my focus has been on, as opposed to, what is my message? What is the story? So I don't know what my story is yet. other than I do like making people happy, and I think that's a pretty noble thing. So I'm kind of okay with that.
So that's what the collection will be, is making people happy, happiness. Okay. So now what we'll do is we'll take 5 elements of happiness. Okay. Joy and happy are not the same thing. So what we want you to do is kind of really begin to think about these levels. Nostalgia can make you happy, but nostalgia is very different than excitement, right? But they can make you happy.
Right.
Right. So we start with happiness, and that's what people need to feel. But now we want to go deeper into 5 different sets. Now you could just say, I want you to feel happy, like giddy is a certain type of happiness, like, you figure it out, right? And then, the question then is, how do you want to convey that representationally, in the image part of it? Do you want to do 5 images of someone walking a dog? Do you want to do them all in birds? Do you want to do them all differently? What I would rather you do is something where representationally they're all similar, okay? Like Cheryl's doing 5 figures, abstract figures. Martin did dancers, right? So there's a similar subject. Michelle did flag paintings, right? There's something similar through that collection. But each painting had its own sub-story, right? Community or patriotism in case of Spirit, in case of Michelle's, that you would focus on. So, I would say if you're going to do happy, this is my thought on maybe what you should be doing, and you do what you want, but let me get out of here. Let me clear all this stuff. Okay. I think finding something that sells, okay, like this stuff is happy, these little animals. Either that, or you're saying these birds sell really well inside the interior design shops?
That and in the gallery, they just tend to eventually sell. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe my thought is we focus on happy, 5 images. If we create a collection of 5 birds, maybe they're all different, 5 different birds. You have a chickadee, blackbird of some sort, of crow, and a rooster. And we focus on making each of them just broadcast this sense of happy or playfulness or joy or, this uplifting type of energy. And the reason why I'm thinking this might be a great idea is because then when you take the compositions, you have something that you can constantly sell over and over again while you're building other work. And so, it's just not a one-off. If you do the design right, you can then continue to reproduce it.
Right.
You could do the design and make this beautiful painting and then take the same composition and create it into a graphic that somebody could buy, and that becomes really easy to sell over and over again when you're just changing a color, right? That thing can be printed out on a nice printer and and hung in somebody's house as decoration, right?
Right.
And so I'm just thinking in terms of a business that you can do to kind of bring some side income in, a couple $100 on these littler things. That's where my mind is, but it doesn't have to be. You can make this much more personal for yourself as you go through this experience, and not think so much about the money. But that's your choice.
Well, I want to think about, I cannot paint things that I don't care about. Mm-hmm. I found that when I try to do that, the paintings don't resonate with me, and they don't resonate with others. So, the subjects that are here, the animals, I care about animals. So that is fine. I think the original, the chicken and ducks there with the sneakers. The original idea was, was to deepen the concept. I painted sneakers by themselves. I painted birds by themselves. Let's try to combine those two things. I painted dogs by themselves. I painted birds by themselves. Let's try and combine them and see what happens. Yep. And so I think that is the direction. Yeah, I think I would like to go that direction. And,
okay.
I don't think they're on here, but I have actually a couple of telephones that have birds perched on them as well. They're flying away from the telephones. I don't think I have them on here.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, but, I love doing the birds with this, the shoes or something like that with you. That would be, I think it would be really, really fun. When you scroll down here, it's obvious what the market wants. I mean, you start from here to here. It's like, so, right? I mean, it's telling you what the market wants. So I think, here we're going to be pushing it a little bit unless you really know that you can sell it in that private market, with the interior design people. But on here, it's really, really clear. This is nice. So yeah, if you want to go that route and redo the, and come up with a collection of birds with the sneakers. Now it's interesting. I'm looking at these guys, and I'm looking at this one, and I'm like, okay, why did this one not sell? And these did. Yeah. And it's great to ask that question, and you start looking at what's different about them. For example, there's a circle in the bottom here and here, but there's none there.
Right.
I think having this thicker line. You can see some of this line. This is more of like a real looking technique. I don't want to say real, but it's rendered differently than this. This has more of a I don't want to say cartoon, but having a thicker outline kind of lends it more to that more fun style. So having a fun style is working too.
Right, and I'll tell you, those are painted on black panel. I pre-gested them with black gesto, whereas the duck that didn't sell, the brown one, was painted on a blue tinted canvas. Which be a different, that makes a difference in and of itself.
Absolutely.
Now it's interesting because if you go up, the little baby duck that's in the little red shoes there, she was painted on a blue panel, but she sold. She has the red shoes. I don't know.
There's also, interestingly, there's little or no space between the legs here, but there's a big space here. There's a big rectangular space there, rectangular space there, rectangular space there. This has a curved little tiny triangle space. So all of these little things, you start looking at these patterns, and you're like, well, why is that? And you know what it is? This is why in comedy they use a lot of words with C, because for whatever reason, the word C, it triggers humor in people, right? So they'll focus on saying words with C's, because it for whatever reason, it just sounds funnier to us. So in something a shape like this, a little squatty type of animal with big shoes, you kind of think of like them walking kind of like a cowboy, and having that little space makes your eye waddle back and forth. It looks too stable.
Right.
And so you don't have that experience of the waddle, right? Or the what the hell, even with the hen, it's like waddle. So that's just my take on it. But obviously, when you start looking at these similarities, it's like, okay, when it has these couple elements in it, all of a sudden they're selling. When it doesn't, it doesn't. So something to think about. Cool.
Well, one of my next ones that I have just in my head is a little row of ducks marching along, actually taking one of these long, narrow panels and turning it so it's horizontal and having them marching along that.
Awesome. That'll be really, really fun.
I hope
That'll be really, really fun. So, what I want you to do when you're doing the duckies is maybe go to the thrift store and buy really, really big shoes. No.
Okay.
Put some crates on your feet, right? I don't know, something. And just walk around and overemphasize that waddle. Feel that rocking back and forth. Because one of the secrets to what we do is understanding our body language. Because our body language, they say people only believe 50% of what you say, but they believe 100% of what you do, like in terms of your body language.
Okay.
So when you start studying your own body language, how you express something, and you can take it and actually translate it into a design. So if I say like a word and I put my hands up like this and I come out like this, if I can take that gesture and get it into a design, into my composition, like my eyes will follow that, and it'll feel as if I was watching someone do the body language of that. It communicates. And so so what is the waddle, you know?
Yeah, that's what I wrote down.
What was that?
Feel
Feel the waddle. That's awesome. I love it. That might become one of our new terms. Yeah, I had a student. I gotta write that down. Feel the waddle. Yeah, I love it. I had a student who kept copying his photos. Right, if there was a light pole in it or a stop sign, he put the stop sign in, and it was really hard for him to stop copying and start composing and realizing that he was free to not have to put a stop sign in it just because there was one there. And so I'm like, John, say this with me. Now, pardon me about my French, but I said, say F the photo, right? But I didn't say F, right? He's like, what? I'm like, just say it really loud, right? And he's like, beep the photo. And oh my God, we laughed. It set him free. I was like, man, every time before you get into a painting, look around, make sure nobody's around, and just scream at the damn thing. F you, photo. Right? And I shared that technique with Michelle, and she totally, she loved it. She's like, oh my God, it's so freeing, right? It was like, F you. And so, yeah, so I think the feel the waddle is going to be kind of like a little bit kind of like the F the photo.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, I will send you some an email a little later tonight. Okay.
All right.
I'm going to go get a little bit of food and then take a nap, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Take some vitamin C.
Yeah, some of that too. Some vitamin coffee.
Yeah.
Awesome. It was awesome, Karen. I didn't expect us to be on for 6 hours, but
well, I appreciate
you're okay with it. I'm okay with it.
I am. I appreciate all the time you spent today. It really, it's all good.
Oh, awesome. Well, enjoy, and I'll reach out to you.
Do you need my email? Is that how you're going to be sending me the PayPal link? Or
Yeah,
I guess it's on my.
I hold on. I think I had. Hold on. Let me see here. That's not you. This is you, Karen Lynn. Is your maiden last name? Is that your middle name, Lynn?
Yes.
Okay.
That's Karen Lynn, and then the email to send it to would be KarenLynn1772@gmail.
What's up with the 1720? Oh wait, I know. January 7th, 1972.
That's it.
Look at you. I thought you were just a patriot, but then I was like, oh wait, you're 4 years younger. But awesome. Very, very cool. Talk to you later.
All right. Thank you, Victor. Have a great night.
Be well. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.